all of it's been very personal. Just watching the kids experiencing, and for me, I would say, they're two little kids, Ian and Taylor, who recently passed from cancer, and throughout our filming, I was communicating with them, knowing that they were both terminal, and what they said to me and their parents said they're trying to hold on till this movie comes. And to a certain degree, you hear them say that and you're like, wow, that's like, I gotta get up and go to the gym. I gotta get up and go to work. I gotta learn these lines. I gotta work on this accent. Seeing how devoted all of my castmates are, and knowing that will be something meaningful to them. But it's, to a certain degree, it's a humbling experience, because you're like, this can't mean that much to them, But seeing how the world has taken us on, seeing how the movement, how it's taken on a life of its own, I realized that they anticipated something great. And I think back now to a kid and just, waiting for Christmas to come, waiting for my birthday to come, waiting for a toy that I was going to get a chance to experience, or a video game. I did live life waiting for those moments. And so it put me back in the mind of being a kid, just to experience those two little boys' anticipation of this movie. And when I found out that they...
Take your time with it.
Yeah, it means a lot.
If your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too, I wanna talk to you. Friends Talking Nerdy.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy. This is your intrepid host, Tim Jousman, here for another action-packed episode of this wonderful show. I will be going solo again this week, so I hope you all do not mind that. Before we get into the show proper, wanted to discuss something big that occurred yesterday as I record this. Today is August 29th. Yesterday was August 28th. And yesterday we did hear the news that actor Chadwick Boseman, star of many, many films, but most notably for my interest, he was King T'Challa in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He debuted in that film series in Captain America Civil War, ended up branching off into his own film, Black Panther, of course, and he also made appearances in Infinity War and Endgame, memorably so in Endgame. I've talked about the memory of the portal scene in Avengers Endgame on this show often, and rightfully so. It's one of the most beautiful moments I've ever experienced in a theater, but I remember once the portal opened and T'Challa, Shuri, and I forgot the other character's name, but they were the first three to walk out of that portal. The audience just erupted that night. Chadwick was 43. I was 2 months older than him, and yet he dies of colon cancer. Wow. That's the thing. The more you grow older, the more celebrity deaths tend to affect you, especially if it's someone that is either around your same age or younger. It makes you realize just how tenuous a grasp we all have on this thing called life, and it's definitely a sad feeling. Haven't felt like this since my friend Stephanie passed away last year from uterine cancer. Hashtag fuck cancer royally. But wow, just reading a lot of people's thoughts on his passing, watching some videos. It's the word came out that he last night after he passed away from his family that he had been diagnosed with the colon cancer in 2016. So 2016 was the first year he appeared as Black Panther in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for Captain America: Civil War. So, for that movie alone, with the colon cancer, to be, for an action movie of any kind, you got to be in peak physical condition to be able to pull off a lot of the moves. Now, obviously, as a main star, you're going to have stunt doubles for other things, but still, you got, look at Chris Evans, look at Robert Downey Jr. Physically, they have to be in the best possible condition they can be, and to think that, Chadwick was able to do everything he was able to do while going through stages 3 and 4 of cancer. Stage 4 is a beast. Does not matter what type of cancer it is, really. But at stage 4, there's some hope, but not much. And the fact that he was able to, bring such depth, bring such emotions to that role, and just the influence that he had on people in general. A video that was circulating on Twitter last night was a replay from an episode of The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Kimmel, where they had, the premise was they had people come to a poster of Black Panther and then explain what that movie meant to them. And then after a minute or two of those people talking, then Chadwick would come out and it would be high fives all around. But just everybody that in that video that looked at that poster, was able to express just how important his role in Black Panther truly was. As a white man, I will not feel that because, in America, culture is directed towards me. I know everything there is about my culture, and in spades, sadly enough. But, there are groups of people in this country who've had their culture stolen from them, and being able to finally have finally have some representation up on the big screen like that. There was in that video, they had a woman that was with her young kid, and she was expressing those same thoughts, and then Chadwick comes out, and just the look on that kid's face, and I'm getting emotional here as I talk about this, so forgive me for that, but just the look in the kid's face, I think of that kid right now. I think of all the kids that, saw Black Panthers. Brian Bendis retweeted a video that was made in 2018 before the Black Panther premiere. There was an African-American school that was given some free passes to go see Black Panther, I believe. I'm not sure 100% of the full story, but these kids were excited, to finally see someone like them on a big screen as a hero. And they were all dancing and whatnot. And I think of those kids too. And Mark, I said this on Twitter, I said this on Facebook, but I'll say it again here. Mark my words. Some kid today who is crying his eyes out, crying her eyes out over this news is going to change the world for the better one day because of what he did. And that is a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing, and I think that's why he fought. That's why Chadwick fought for this role. Because when he was diagnosed, he was in 2016, he had just taken the role of T'Challa in Civil War. Marvel had already, if you think back to the Incredible Hulk movie starred Edward Norton, not Mark Ruffalo, but they were able to successfully recast that role, bringing in Mark Ruffalo for the first Avengers movie, and in 2016, if Chadwick had gone to Kevin Feige and said, look, I've been diagnosed with cancer, I need to bow out, they could have gotten another actor, and, the series would, be successful today. But he realized just how powerful seeing King T'Challa on the screen would be for people in general, but for kids as well. And he wanted to be a part of that change. And for me, his legacy is going to be up there with Christopher Reeve. If not more so. For me, I see him on the level of Christopher Reeve, but, for those kids out there that are sad today, it's going to be a lot more, because, they're going to be far more people coming along that are far more eloquent, that'll be able to express these thoughts a lot better than I'm doing right now, so I do apologize for that. But at the end of the day, have a good cry. This is sad news, but to quote Leonard McCoy in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, he's not really dead, as long as we remember him. And we will always remember King T'Challa. Wakanda forever, baby. Anyway, take a deep breath here. All right, so with that, we will get on to... I did want to talk about this. I will go on. I was going to go on to what was going to be the main portion of the show, but I do remember I did want to talk about this. On Twitter, some people were contemplating what the future of Black Panther is going to be. I will say this, right now, I don't really care, because, at the end of the day, even though people have an emotional attachment to characters like this, I certainly do. I'm wearing a Marvel t-shirt as we speak with Black Panther on it as I'm recording this. At the end of the day, though, we're talking about intellectual properties that are owned by Marvel Studios and the Disney Corporation. They're going to find a way to make money off this character at some point. I will say this, I think it is possible that for T'Challa, the role of T'Challa to be recast. I don't know if I would want to do it within the next decade, because Chadwick has left a lasting legacy that is going to be hard to reach. Similar to folks that have played Superman since Christopher Reeve. Everybody, Brandon Routh, Henry Cavill, I forgot that guy's name who plays him on the CW show, but that guy, they are compared to Christopher Reeve, rightly or wrongfully so. That's not for me to judge, but he left a big legacy here that will be hard to reach. So I don't know if we're necessarily going to see Black Panther 2. Black Panther 2 was originally scheduled to be released in 2022, apparently, if I'm not mistaken. So, but I don't know if that movie's going to go forward. Now, having said that, obviously we're going to see Shuri again. We're going to see Wakanda again. We're going to see other characters that exist in Wakanda in the MCU again. I have no doubt about that. And I also think about this too. To get a role, especially a lead role in a major Hollywood film, some people aren't aware. Before you get that role, when you're offered it, you gotta take a physical. And not everybody is able to pass that physical. Robert Downey Jr. before he got for the Iron Man role, due to Robert Downey Jr.'s past, they weren't going to let him be in that role until Jon Favreau really fought for it. But that's why you hear people like Lindsay Lohan not getting roles, and but what I'm thinking is this, if he had that severe of colon cancer, obviously, a lot of people were not aware of this, but it would not shock me if he did let in somebody like a Kevin Feige know. I suspect that higher up folks at Disney and Marvel were aware of the prognosis and had plans in place to deal with that for the T'Challa character. Also, with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness movie coming out, it's already pretty much been established that movie is going to bring in different iterations of characters that we already know, as well as having cameos from people that played Marvel characters in other movies. Like I hear they're even talking to Tobey Maguire to make an appearance as Spider-Man in the new Doctor Strange movie. But it's certainly possible that they could find a way to use that movie to bring back the character of T'Challa, but played by somebody else. So it would not shock me if the higher ups at Disney and Marvel were aware of his prognosis and, were able to plan accordingly for an event like this. Wakanda is not dead. The characters that exist in Wakanda are not dead. We are going to see them again in the MCU. I just don't know how long it'll be before we see T'Challa on screen again. I think we will see another Black Panther movie at some point, but it's not going to be anytime soon. It just can't. I would love to be wrong. If a couple years from now they recast it and that movie is a success, I will be first in line to watch that movie and enjoy it, because Marvel Studios, even their worst movies, are still pretty damn enjoyable. So I trust what that company has put out, but it's gonna be tough for whoever takes on that role, but it can be done, in my opinion. In my opinion, it should be done, because that's the importance of the character. One thing I forgot to mention too, so much on my mind here. One thing I forgot to mention too. Yesterday, the day of his tragic passing, would have been the 103rd birthday of Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby was the co-creator of Black Panther. So, when the character of T'Challa was first created in the 60s by Stan and Jack, Stan Lee, of course, they were very much aware that character was not going to be as big a selling of a character, because they were going to have issues releasing issues of Black Panther in the South, for instance, in the 60s, but they felt it was important to have a positive role, a positive African-American, what am I saying? He's from Africa. I'm a fool, sorry. A positive black character, for their audience. And, if Stan and Jack were alive today, they'd be extremely proud of what Chadwick Boseman did. So yeah, now I'm done with that. All right. Let's get to our main topic at hand. Last week I had some fun on our 3-year anniversary show, going over my top 25 favorite hard rock and metal songs. And so what I thought I would do this week is kind of do another. I wanted to do another top 25 list, but go with a different genre of music. And what I did was come up with my top 25 favorite country songs. As I've stated on the show, I'm not going to lie and say I'm the biggest fan of country music in the world, but the past couple of years, especially the last 8 months especially, I've kind of opened my ears to a lot to what country has to offer. Country music in a lot of ways for me is kind of like horror movies for moviegoers. What do I mean by that? It's a genre of music similar to horror movies for movies that doesn't necessarily have the widest appeal. People either really, really love it or they really, really hate it. When it comes to country music, as we've discussed a few times, we've discussed country on the show, there are some stigmas to it, which, when you think of like the country bumpkin, Pabst Blue Ribbon beer drinking, hey baby, come here, give me my beer, gonna put on some Toby Keith type of guy, maybe there's some truth to that, sure, and Toby Keith is not the brightest crayon in the box or whatever, but my issues with country music don't fall along those lines. It falls along, it's more of how country is presented. Now, when I came together with my list, one interesting thing that I did see throughout the years, because what I did, I went on Apple Music and, the good thing about services like that is that they will have like playlists that comprise like the best music from a particular genre during a particular year. So I did a 20-year stretch where I searched country 1970, country 1971, and just went through 2 decades of country music like that, and saw some interesting things. Like, for the longest time, and I didn't look at too many album covers now, but country album covers were not really that original. What do I mean by that? I mean, you think of classic album covers like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, you think of The Wall, you think of other album covers, and you think of art. There was a lot of thought put into that. Whereas with a lot of country album covers, it's just the artist, like the guy has a cowboy hat and he has a somber look on his face. The women are usually dressed in fancy clothes, and they may have smiles, they may not. They don't always look directly at the camera for whatever reason, but it's similar. It's like executives that decide what country music gets put out really want to stick to a particular formula, and for the longest time that formula is what kept me away from investigating country music, because I don't believe in such a thing as a bad genre of music. Now, what do I mean by that? I think it is possible for someone to not be a fan of hip-hop, but to like some hip-hop songs. There's good in anything if you really look for it. Like, Professor Aubrey, for instance, when it comes to movies, she does not like horror movies whatsoever, but she also likes the movie Sharknado, which is kind of a horror movie in its way, lots of gore, lots of whatnot, but obviously people say, well, how, based on how that movie was presented, it's more of a comedy than anything, but obviously it's still in the horror genre due to everything going on. And I don't know, the purpose of my list, what I wanted to do was put together some songs for people that were a lot like me. Like I said, I am not going to proclaim to be the biggest fan of country music, but there is good stuff out there. And if you're the type of person that doesn't necessarily know where to start with country to find the good stuff, but don't want to wade through stuff that you're not going to like, hopefully this playlist here that I go through will be a good start for you, a good way to kind of say, okay, I like this, let's see what I can do with other songs. So with that, let's start off with the list. Like I said last week, this is not like a music countdown or anything like that, so we're not going to start off with number 25. These are not ranked from least important to most important. This is just my favorites, and I will give reasons why I put them on the list, and there may be a couple of choices here that people may scratch their heads over, but I want to give you my rationalization for why I put them on this list. But anyway, we'll start off with the first track. It's from Waylon Jennings. It's a track we've actually discussed on the show here before. It's called The Whirled Surprise. The absolute beauty of this particular song is that it, similar to a lot of country, is that it perfectly encapsulates that stage after a breakup where, when you go through a break, when we're talking like a normal breakup where two people who just weren't meant to be together long term in a romantic relationship break up just because of life. When you break up like that, you're gonna have some hard, sore feelings at first. You're just gonna be a lot of anger, and then there's gonna be a stage to where you haven't necessarily processed through everything yet, but you're getting over the anger, but you're not quite resolved with everything as of yet, and this song kind of encapsulates that for me. The whole not wanting to forget you, kind of putting yourself in spot, because the song details is kind of like a character piece, kind of details where the character of this particular song goes to a bar and listens to the same song over and over again, because that was the song him and his girl enjoyed, and just he didn't want to forget her. And I love the fact that it brought that up, because it's a part of the coping process after after a split, you know, kind of this is the stage that is just before the stage where someone realizes, you know, their part in what ended a breakup. A lot of times, one that I've been through quite a lot. But anyway, great song here. Obviously, with Waylon, he's had some better-known songs, even though this was a decent hit for him back in the day. You know, he does have some more better name recognition songs out there, like Lukenbach, Texas, and everything. But you got to give this one a shot here. Go on to the next one. The next track is from Linda Ronstadt. It's called Blue Bayou. Why did I include this? It's the great thing about country. It's that, you know, a lot of times, you know, people, when they think of country, they do have the misconception that country has to sound a particular way, and this song doesn't necessarily fit into that box, but it's still in that box, if that makes sense. Linda Ronstadt, one of the greatest vocalists, you know, female vocalists from the 70s, just singing up a storm on this particular song. This is just, you know, one thing Professor Aubrey did mention about hearing the song on Apple Music here, at least with the speakers I had on my device, is that, you know, she said it wasn't the richest sound that she likes. So definitely recommend listening to this song on your preferred audio experience. If you got a nice stereo setup at home, great. If you like headphones, hopefully you don't get tinnitus, but, you know, put on some headphones and just listen to this. Just listen to her vocals, the music. It's a beautiful song. The next song is a classic, written by Willie Nelson, but made famous by Patsy Cline. It's the song Crazy. You gotta put this on there. I mean, because she, you know, Patsy sang her ass off on this particular song here. Like I said, Willie Nelson wrote it. I mean, Willie Nelson does have a version of this song out there that you can listen to, and the beauty of it is that his version and Patsy's are essentially played the same in terms of instrumentation, music, and whatnot. But how they deliver the lines is different. And definitely recommend listening to both back and back. But she's able to bring a lot more emotion. She was able to bring a lot more emotions out of this particular song that Willie was not able to do. So, you know, what can you say? I mean, I remember growing up, I was kind of resistant to listening to Patsy Cline because my mother absolutely loved her. You know, in the 80s, she, you know, if it was on TV, she was going to watch either Coal Miner's Daughter or with Sissy Spacek, or she was going to watch Jessica Lange in Sweet Dreams over and over again. And as a kid, if your parents are like, you need to listen to this music, you're not going to listen to that music. And I wasn't going to listen to this music because my mother loved it. But you know, over time, I really did come to appreciate her vocals. And another great thing about Patsy, too, is that, you know, her vocal delivery is not necessarily what you think of as country, but it is very much country, meaning she doesn't have the country twang in her voice, which, you know, we'll get into in a couple songs down the line here about why that shouldn't matter, and why, you know, for me, for the longest time, why that I was wrong for that line of thinking. But beautiful song. What more can be said about that hasn't already been said? So we'll go to our next track here. Another classic. This one from George Jones. He Stopped Loving Her Today. I mean, my goodness. Everybody has been in that deep, dark despair that this song, that he's able to emote in this song, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, because a lot of times, especially when you're down in the dumps with a breakup and you listen to a song like this, a lot of times it gets the tears flowing, it gets the emotions going in your own self, and it's healthy listening to this song. I mean, again, you know, if you're in despair because of a breakup and you listen to this song and you're crying, it's not fun going through that per se, but it's allowing you to kind of cope. It's a great coping mechanism, and, you know, just how he's able to deliver the song. I didn't realize until, you know, doing the research that this song came out in the 80s. I thought it was like a 60s or 70s song at least, but it came out in 1980, and that blew my mind there. But still a damn good song here. It's not one that's going to be played at like a high school prom or anything like that, but it's perfect for when you're in a very particular mood, and that mood is usually you're sad about a breakup or you're drinking a beer. Boom, put the song on, cry a little bit, and you're going to feel better. The next song on the list here, it's a Brooks and Dunn song, but it's a cover by Casey Musgraves, one of my favorite singers who I've gushed about on this show before. But she covered the Brooks and Dunn song Neon Moon. I guess Brooks and Dunn had an album out recently where they had the current country stars cover their tracks, hence the Casey Musgraves song here. And my God, this song is just beautiful. As I was speaking a couple songs before, I remember when Neon Moon first came out, and I did not give it a chance because even vocally, Brooks and Dunn have that country twang, and I was not giving it a chance simply because of that, thinking, oh, hillbilly type of stupid thing. And thinking a lot lately about the fact that, I do tend to stick with those stereotypes of Southern people. I think of a movie I saw, a documentary called Hillbilly. That's on Hulu. I definitely recommend folks watching that. And I did not realize that the term hillbilly has some rather dark connotations to it. What it was it originally came up because rich, businessmen were upset that people that lived in the Appalachia area were kind of fighting against the rich business people from essentially raping the land for coal and all that stuff. So they ended up using the term hillbilly, and with the media at the time, whether it was newspapers or movies and whatnot, they created this myth of the mountain person, being a hick, and just, if you think of Cletus the slack-jawed yokel on The Simpsons, that is the image that they wanted in people's heads, so that when someone who did not live in the Appalachia area heard what was going on, they didn't care because they thought that these people deserved it, and how dare they stand up to the good, honest, hardworking American businessman who's trying. Basically, it was a way for rich business interests to screw over poor people. Common thing in society here, and it's something that I was not aware of. That really, in a lot of ways, it made me think of what happened on speaking of The Simpsons. It made me think of what happened with the Apu character. I mean, watching that movie Hillbilly kind of put me in the same spot that I was in once I, took the time to look into why people were not happy with Apu, because the Apu character on The Simpsons, for the most part, is presented, now as a fully fleshed out character. You didn't necessarily think of the negative connotations to the character, but once you hear about them, it's like you can't push that under the rug again. It's even with good intentions, like a Cletus the slack-jawed yokel character, it's once you realize that it's another instance of the rich and powerful trying to stick it to the average citizen, you can't go on having the same types of ignorant thoughts, hence that's a long-winded way of stating that I was wrong for judging songs like this just because they had an accent that I associated with hick, that I associated with something negative, and I was an asshole for thinking that, especially when it comes to Brooks and Dunn, because I'm not going to proclaim to be a big fan of their music, but let's put it this way, I'm thinking connotation is that they're stupid or something like that, yet they're making millions of dollars, making music. They're in a far better spot than I am financially, and yet I'm thinking bad on them just because, thanks to rich businessmen from 100 years ago that wanted to rape the coal from the land of the Appalachian Mountains. Fuck that, and that's another thing too that I think kept me from, kind of diving deep into country music. That the whole myth of what Southern culture and there's a lot of negative in Southern culture. I'm not trying to, for obvious reasons, but there is good as well, and music is universal in a lot of ways, and music has ways of connecting people that you're not going to find in other forms of art. And don't be ignorant like I was, let's put it that way. Now this song here, just another, similar to the Wurlitzer Prize, it's another one of those just beautiful encapsulations of what it's like when you're just at that point where you're getting over the anger of a breakup, but you're still remembering it. You're sad, and it's a beautiful song. Let's go on to the next one, since I seem to be rambling right here, but it wouldn't be Friends Talking Nerdy without somebody rambling. The next song on the list surprised my sister. That is Mama He's Crazy from the Judds. Not a big Judds fan at all. Similar to like Taylor Swift or Britney Spears for my interest. For Taylor Swift and Britney Spears, I'm not a fan of theirs either. But they both have a song or two that I've listened to and enjoyed. Similar to this one. One reason, the big reason I picked this was the beauty of this song. It shows that part of the beginning part of a relationship, that self-doubt that everybody can get, where you think that this person that is showing all this affection towards me, they must be crazy. Like I don't deserve this. Why are they showing me all this affection? And I really like that this song, this simple, beautiful song, is able to kind of speak to those feelings. And of course, Naomi and Winona had great harmonies together. If you listen to the podcast Cocaine and Rhinestones, they actually do an episode on Winona and talk about that when the Judds were a touring act together. I mean, thinking about it, I don't know if I would want to be in a musical act with my mother. Ooh, that would be awkward. But just there was a lot of friction going on between those two for obvious reasons. But when they were able to turn the tape on and start recording songs like this, you got to sit back and enjoy it. So the next one is from an artist called Juice Newton. Most folks today aren't necessarily aware of her. You may get some people that dig, and that's not a knock against her, because that's the thing I've noticed about music. The older you get, the more you realize just how fast things change, especially in music. And someone that you may think is the greatest artist in the world doesn't necessarily latch on to the public's imagination, and Juice Newton is one of them. Now, this song in particular was featured in a Marvel movie. It was featured in the first Deadpool. It was the song that opened it up, and that's Angel in the Morning. Angel of the Morning. It's a great song. Again, not a huge fan of Juice Newton. The reason I did have to add her on the list, as a kid, I do remember liking her song Queen of Hearts. I did consider putting that song on a list here, but I re-listened to it, and oof, I had bad taste at 5 years old. But this song I did enjoy. It's a little on the overdramatic side, but still a good one to listen to. The next one, from an artist called Katie Lang. I've actually talked about this one somewhat briefly on the show before, because it's the song Constant Craving. I mentioned it due to its connection to the Rolling Stones. In the late 90s, Rolling Stones released an album called Bridges to Babylon, which blew the minds of Seventh-day Adventists everywhere. There's the first track on the album, the first single was a song called Anybody Seen My Baby. And the chorus had a lot of similarities to this song from Katie Lang, Constant Craving. So much so that before the album was released, Mick and Keith did the right thing and just said, give her a writing credit. And I remember interviews at the time where, she, said she was completely honored that, she wouldn't have sued anyway because it's the Rolling Stones. But, if my name were put as a co-author on a Rolling Stones song, my God, I'd be the happiest guy in the world. But what a good song here. And Katie was an important figure for me when it comes to country music because, growing up, my mother was a huge fan. She always loved to watch the Nashville Network, and there was a talk show on there. I believe the host's name was Ralph Bellamy, but he would have on Artist of the Day, and again, most of the artists were going by the country formula, being what it was, but Katie was different. I remember there was an instance where they introduced her on this talk show, and then they cut to, most talk shows have like a curtain, guests walk through and whatnot, but, she popped her head out from the bottom of the curtain and then came up, and she just looked different, she sung different, her songs were different, and that and I'm glad she came along when she did. The song is like over 25 years old now, oof, I'm old, but I'm glad she came along when she did because she was one of the few artists on the countryside that, made me think that there would maybe something more to country music than just the stuff that you hear on, the new country radio stations that, nobody seems to like but still sells millions of records, if you know what I mean. But great song. Can't go wrong there. The next one from Johnny Cash. I don't think you can have any sort of a country music favorite country music song list without including a Johnny Cash song. So I included the first song of his that really stuck with me from his first American Recordings album. It's Delia's Gone. Why do I say it for this particular song? Because again, going back to my mother's interest, when she was interested in something, I really wasn't. So, Johnny Cash, I was definitely aware of Johnny Cash before this album came out, but I didn't take the time to really listen to his work because I thought of him as an older artist and, thought, that's someone my mother liked. It's like Perry Como, that country type of deal. But, hearing him on this record and just the work that he did with Rick Rubin, period, all of the American Recording albums, I really respected the fact that, Johnny was able to step outside of his comfort zone while still remaining very much in it. The fact that he was able to cover song like the 9 Inch Nails song Hurt. I could have added that, but the fact that his last big hit, was in his 70s, and that the video itself was up for an MTV Video Music Award, and he's like in his late 70s, a stroke victim and all that, says a lot about him as an artist. And I really respect the fact that he went out of his comfort zone with these recordings, and Delia's Gone. It was also featured on Beavis and Butthead, where Beavis, asked if this was a gangster rap song, which is what it is. But definitely give this one a listen. The next track is a duet. It's from Emmylou Harris and Willie Nelson. It is the song One Paper Kid. What I really liked about it, Professor Aubrey is a big fan of Emmylou Harris, has a number of her albums, and, because when I first put this list together, I showed it to her, and there were some choices on there. She's a bigger, she will always be a bigger country fan than I, but there were a couple tracks that she was like, this is not country, take it off, and, she was playing me a number of songs, and this one really kind of stuck with me, and that's the song One Paper Kid. Really good, simple country duet, but I like it because it's not what you think of necessarily as a country song. It's just a beautiful song that's also a country song, and that's kind of the beauty of it. I mean, she's got a beautiful voice, definitely opened my ears to her, and definitely loving a lot, because again, with artists like her, I was resistant simply because of the country label, but hearing other tracks from her, give it a listen. It's a really, really good song. So We'll go on to the next one here. Another song that we've talked about on the show here before, from Jomo and the Possum Posse. It's the song from their album "Take a Number, Satan," their latest album, and it's the last song on the album. The beautiful duet that Jomo did with a singer by the name of Betty Sue. It's called "You Need It." Like I said on the before, they're one hell of a band. One of my favorite country bands. Let's put it that way. I love how they are able to create funny songs while still making good songs, because it's tougher than you think to come up with a song that can fit well into both those categories. But the beauty of this one right here is kind of low key compared to the other works, compared to the other songs on that album. And I liked how it was able to sing about. They were able to talk about how everything's changed. Everything's changing in our society. It opens up, like the Yellowstone Park is opening up a new water ride because people are bored with Old Faithful. We got wallets on our watches. We got so much instant convenience now that we're not taking the time to really appreciate the beauty of life. And just this song, if you get a chance to listen to it, definitely encourage you to do so. And just, if support this band. They're a great band. They actually got featured on the Kevin Costner TV show Yellowstone, which is on the Paramount Network. The Guy in a Buffalo videos, they discussed those on one of the recent episodes. But definitely give this a listen. It's a really good song. The next one is from Shooter Jennings, Waylon Jennings' son. Wanted to feature it. Really good, simple song. I'm not going to say it's the greatest song in human history or anything like that, but I do list it as one of my favorites. It's called Wild and Lonesome. It's from his album called The Other Life. It's a duet with an artist by the name of Patty Griffin. Admittedly, I'm not familiar with her work, but when I played this for Professor Aubrey, that's one thing that she's familiar with Patty's work, said a lot of great things about her, and that's probably the big reason why she ended up liking this song too. Just kind of low key. It's just listen to it. It's really, really good. Really good song. Not much more that I can say about that. So we'll go on to the next one here. The next one, another favorite of Professor Aubrey, who kind of turned me on to this, and I was a little resistant to add this at first, but it's from Dolly Parton, Jolene. I like Dolly Parton as a human being. Who doesn't? I mean, you hear a lot of the stories, like the fact that she has a literacy program that she will, I believe it's nationwide, to where she will send kids books every month until they hit 5 years old. Reason being, when she was a kid, she was so poor she didn't have books available. You hear things about Dollywood. Now, the first thing that people think of when they hear that somebody created a theme park dedicated to themselves, they think, oh man, that how that person must think highly of themselves, type of deal. But the reason she created Dollywood was to give work to people in her hometown. And apparently, in Tennessee, where Dollywood is, that is the biggest employer for that particular town right there. And which brings me to this song, Jolene. Another story about this is that Jolene, I guess, is based on a real person that she met by the name of Jolene. I think Jolene may have been a waitress. But, Dolly said, I love your name. And I apparently told this person that, just listen. Like, in the future, you're going to hear a song from me called Jolene, and just know that I wrote that song for you. And like I said, when I first heard it, didn't care for it, but there are times to where for songs I need to listen to them a few times to kind of process it, and this was definitely it. So Jolene, really good song, definitely recommend it. The next song on the list, if you're a Quentin Tarantino fan, you know what this song is. It's from the Statler Brothers, Flowers on the Wall. What a great song here. I think this is the only Statler Brothers song that I'm aware that I know of, that I recall ever hearing. but it's a damn good song to begin with. And it's what I love about this song too is that it does capture that the pain that somebody goes through during a breakup, but sometimes you want to put on that macho face. You know, if you do happen to run into your ex or something like that, you want to pretend, oh yeah, everything's all right, even though you may be the saddest you've ever been. You're at home alone. You want to. I love playing, you know, solitaire with a deck that only has 51 cards and not 52. And you know, you want to convince yourself that you're doing good when you're really not. And just it's a singable song, and it's just a very good song, definitely recommended. So we'll move on to the next one here. The next one I had to put on because of my mother. She, you know, if she were alive, she would make sure it was on this list. It's from Ronnie Millsap. There's No Getting Over Me. Now, the funny thing about Ronnie, the more I listen to a lot of his work, especially from the 70s, he's got this weird thing going on to where a lot of his songs are about, you know, I know we broke up, but that's cool, and it's a weird dynamic. Doesn't make the songs bad or anything like that. There's another song from this particular album where I got this song called "I Wouldn't Have Missed It for the World." That beautiful song, but I wanted to include this one here. Kind of fits in that country pop category along with other artists of the era like Kenny Rogers and whatnot. It has more in common, I would say, with like 50s rock than country music, but it's still very much a country song, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. But it, I don't hear much from him today, but definitely he's got a good voice. It's a good song. I'm not going to proclaim he's my absolute favorite. He was my mother's absolute favorite, and I remember she had some pictures that she took when she saw him in concert, and I guess she apparently contemplated throwing her panties up on stage, which... Throwing your panties on stage to a blind singer, I don't know if he's going to know or care if you do that. But, definitely a good song here. Now, going to the next one here from Janis Joplin. It is Me and Bobby McGee. Now, talking to my friend Lisa Chilton about this particular song, she was very insistent on the fact that she disagreed with this song being on the list. She said Janis Joplin is not country, and Janis Joplin was not a country singer. No, she was a rock and roll singer from the 60s. However, this is a Chris Christopherson song. Chris Christopherson is very much a country singer, and if you listen to this song, Janis's version of the song, her take on it, I mean, because Chris Christopherson, I believe he did this track on his first album. This is kind of similar to what Jimi Hendrix did with All Along the Watchtower with Bob Dylan. I mean, she made that song hers, and I think Chris would be the first one to say that, just with how she delivered it. But to me, it very much falls into the country music category. And not only because of the content, not only because of the music, but due to his involvement, it evokes that country spirit for me. Because for me, I relate most to the country songs that do speak to relationships. Whether it's thinking positively about a relationship gone past. Like in this one, she's reminiscing about Bobby. She's sad in some areas, but she's thinking back with happiness, and that's a beautiful thing. And country at its absolute best for me, the country that I like is ones that can speak to those emotions. That's why a lot of times when people go through breakups, they do put on either sad pop songs or they put on country songs, just because it can speak to the good and the bad of what relationships can bring to you. And that's so I very much stand by this choice of Me and Bobby McGee. So na boo boo, stick your head in doo doo. Janis Joplin's on this list. All right, going to the next track here. The next track was a popular one in the 80s from Randy Travis, Forever and Ever Amen. Again, not going to proclaim he's... most of the artists on this list are not ones that I would put into a grouping like the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, meaning I haven't heard every album. I'm not going to proclaim to be the biggest fan. If they come to town, if they're still alive, I'm not necessarily going to rush out. I mean, if Casey Musgraves is coming to town, I of course am going to be there. But in the other folks like Randy Travis here, this is a song I would say that if it comes on the radio, if you're driving your car, it's summer, you put this on. It's kind of dusk. It's not quite dark out yet, but you're putting this on. It's a beautiful song. It's great to sing along to. It's simple, but it speaks to just love in a relationship, and it's beautiful in its simplicity. So definitely recommend giving this a listen. The next one. It's one I remember as a kid. This artist actually wrote a song for Elvis Presley. I did not know that until I did some research for this episode. He wrote the song Kentucky Rain for Elvis. The artist in question is Eddie Rabbitt, and it's the song I Love a Rainy Night. Again, this is another artist that fits kind of... my mother, growing up, she mainly listened to the pop country type of stuff, because for a while in the 80s, look at what Lionel Richie wrote a country song with Lady for that was covered by Kenny Rogers, and you think of Islands in a Stream with Kenny and Dolly, that duet, that was written by one of the Bee Gees, for goodness sake. So, pop and country have had a long marriage together. They don't always, even though they don't always like to admit it, they have had that long marriage together. So there were pop country artists long before Taylor Swift came along. But I love this song. I mean, I was coming back from the store yesterday, listening to this song, and just, I wanted it to rain because of how happy it made me feel listening to it, and just. It's simple, but it's good to sing along to, and just makes you feel good when it's done. And a song that makes you feel good, come on, you got to have it on the list here. So we'll go on to the next one. This is another must-have on the list here. Willie Nelson, On the Road Again. He's done so many good songs over the years. We talked about Crazy earlier, the Patsy Cline song. I mean, in a lot of ways, Willie is kind of like Carole King. Carole King was a big-time songwriter in the 60s, wrote a lot for the Monkees, wrote for other artists as well. She worked in the Brill Building, because for the country is notorious for this too, is that a lot of times the big name stars in particular genres don't always write their own hits. They will have songwriters that all their job is just to create songs for others to sing. Like pop is notorious for that. If you grew up in the 90s, you remember the one-hit wonder band Four Non Blondes. I forgot the specific song, but the lead singer of Four Non Blondes, I believe her name is Linda Perry, if I'm not mistaken. But she ultimately went on to become a songwriter in the vein of Carole King or Willie Nelson, and or a Diane Warren, meaning her job now is just writing songs for others to sing. And that lead singer, Linda Perry, ended up writing songs for Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, just a number of pop hits that you wouldn't necessarily associate with her work on Four Non Blondes. But that's, to me, that's a sign of a good songwriter, when you can write a song that is outside of what people expect from you, that others can make well known. I mean, that makes you a good songwriter. But Willie, what can't be said about Willie Nelson? I mean, he's a legend for a reason. A lot of folks that hate country music will say, but Willie's good, and Willie is great. He's not the greatest guitar player in the world, but I love his guitar playing. He's not the greatest singer in the world, but I love his singing. He's just got that certain something that you can't quite identify, but if you could, you would bottle it up and become a billionaire. He's able to speak to the human condition. On the Road Again, put that on when you're driving, taking a trip, going on vacation or something. You're going to be in good spirits when you sing the song. It's simple. Most people know most of the lyrics, and it's commonly sung at karaoke events. I've sung it on karaoke before, and it's one of those songs that really anybody can sing, but he just makes it sound so much better. I mean, what can't be said about On the Road Again? But I had to include it on my list. The next one here kind of rounds out the not the list here, but it's from Chris Christopherson. There was a group, super group in the 80s called the Highwaymen, that Chris Christopherson, Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, and Waylon Jennings were a part of. That's what I was just trying to think of. That's why I started. But instead of including a Highwayman, a song from the Highwaymen on the song, I wanted to feature one song from each of them because, I mean, the Highwaymen albums to me are a lot like the Expendables movies from Sylvester Stallone. It's great to see all those legendary artists working together, but overall I do prefer the individual work and not the collective work that they were able to do together. So the song from Chris Christopherson that I included here was The Year 2000 Minus 25, which we've actually talked about this particular song here before on the Waylon and Willie album. Willie Nelson did a cover of this particular one here. Just overall really good. I mean, it's a good, simple song. Sing along. I mean, you can sing along with it. You're moving and grooving, and just Chris Christopherson is one hell of a great a songwriter. I think a lot of people today are probably more familiar. If they are familiar with him, they're more familiar with his acting. He was big in the Blade movies, including being still friends to this day with Wesley Snipes, of course. His son, I don't know if Jody Christopherson, his son, briefly worked in the WWE for the NXT brand. I don't know if I know he was let go. I don't know if he's still on the indie circuit. What remains of the indie circuit, thanks to coronavirus kind of decimating the industry for a bit. But his son was involved in professional wrestling for a while. But just Chris Christopherson, don't sleep on him. If you get a chance, if you like country music and you haven't heard his work, go to your music service of choice and kind of dig deep and listen to some of his work, because you're going to hear songs like this and you're going to love it. The next song from Travis Tritt. For the longest time after a breakup that I had a quarter in my pocket because of this song. It's a song he wrote called Here's a Quarter, Call Someone Who Cares. It's another relationship song, but this song is beautiful, it's funny, but it captures in a humorous way the early parts of anger that you feel and hurt that you feel in a relationship, like when I was, relating to this song most during a recent breakup, a lot of it was hurt, but this song kind of encapsulates the machismo you kind of convince yourself you have, of hoping that the person will someday, want to come and apologize or whatever, and then you're all callous. You pull out a quarter. Here's a quarter. Call someone who cares. Ha ha ha. Type of deal. Even though that would never happen if the opportunity never came. But I support anybody that is able to go through these types of emotions and express them artistically, because even if you go, and obviously the song is not too dark, even though it does touch on some negative emotions here. I think of Eminem, for instance. I mean, he's gone through some really dark stuff on his songs, but the fact that he's able to kind of work through those feelings in an artistic manner, and people listening to it are able to work through those feelings by listening to that song, to me, there's beauty in that. And that's, one reason I like this song. And another reason, too, is it's great to sing along to. My God, this is another song that most people can pull off in a karaoke setting without sounding like they're, slaughtering a walrus with a rusty butter knife. Though I've heard some karaoke covers that boggle my mind, but still, this is just kind of a simple one, and it kind of encourages sing-along as well, which I like, but just give it a shot. It's a good song. The next one on the list, kind of one of the forefathers of country music, Hank Williams. Aubrey made it clear that I should, and I liked Hank Williams songs. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put this song on the list. But she said, if you're gonna have a song if you're gonna have a list like this, it's kind of important to, put on songs from all eras of country music. And for me, it was important to put on "Hey Good Looking." Hey Good Looking, what you got cooking? It's simple, it's goofy, it's silly, but again, it captures that emotion. It's flirty. It's you could picture somebody saying something like this when they first meet up in a public place, whether it be at a bar or something like that, or singing it to, if you're already in a relationship, going up to your partner, what you got cooking, baby, it's a type of deal. It's playful, it's fun, and just again, sing along. It's a very good song. It's a traditional country song in a lot of ways, of course, including sound, but just very good at capturing that emotion. And a good song is a good song, no matter who does it. Give this one a listen if you haven't done so already. This next track, when I put the list out on social media, I asked people for comment, and a good friend of mine, Karen Street, when she came across this particular song, she asked me why the fuck I put this on. Her words. It's a song from the Monkees called "What Am I Doing Hanging Round?" The reason I put it on is this. Mike Nesmith, who wrote and performed in this song, is actually an important figure in the country rock world, because after he left the Monkees, he started a band called the First National Band, and during that era, he came up with a song called "Different Drum," that subsequently an artist by the name of Linda Ronstadt, with the group that she was in at the time called the Stone Ponies, was able to make into a hit song. And her career, that was her first major hit, and she went on to do songs like Blue Bayou that I mentioned before. That's another thing I wanted to bring up here about Blue Bayou, because when I put the postings on social media, I told folks that I would kind of, if they left a comment, I would mention them, and I wanted to make sure I do that for one particular person, so I'm bringing that up here. But Mike Nesmith was also a major inspiration for the Eagles. I did not include the Eagles on my list here, but they've if you listen to an Eagles album from their heyday in the 70s, there isn't. If you took like the Desperado album from the 70s and released that today, that's going to be labeled a country album. For what we consider country today, the Eagles are a country band, even though they have rock elements. Now, the person that I was speaking to in question was from the Infectious Groove podcast. Definitely recommend, and I was, once they, commented, I listened to their episode, really, really dug their show. They talk about music news, in-depth music discussion on all genres, but, they were able to, they responded here, so I, said I would definitely give them some free promotion here. The Infectious Groove podcast, give them a listen. You can listen to them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all that jazz. But going back to Mike Nesmith here, he is very much an important figure in country music history, so I have no problem adding this song. And this song in particular, "What Am I Doing Hanging Around?" If you didn't realize it was a Monkey song, you would probably think it came from a country artist here. So I stand by this choice. Was it on a pop record? Yes, it was. But again, this song is a country song. I will go to my grave thinking so. Now, a couple more choices left here, then we will wrap up the show for the week. The next track here, from Jerry Reed, Eastbound and Down. If you love good movies, you gotta watch Smoking Bandit at least once. I mean, Burt Reynolds and Sally Field at their absolute peak. Jackie Gleason. What can be said about Jackie Gleason that hasn't already been said? The man is a legend there, but just the soundtrack. Soundtrack was amazing from Jerry Reed, and this song in particular, when I'm driving, especially on the highway, and I put this song on, I'm dancing, I'm singing along to it, and I always notice when I listen to this song that I probably am driving a little faster than I probably should. So, but just it's a fun song. It's very much country, but great guitar solo in the middle. Great sing-along. It's just infectious. It makes you happy. If you listen to this song and you're not, smiling at the end, there's something wrong with you. I'm sorry, but, you should go get yourself checked out. All right, last song on the list. I wanted to have 25 songs like I did, with the listing last week, but I wanted to pick the right ones, and I was resistant to put a track from these artists at first, but every time I hear this particular song, it puts a smile on my face because of my mother, and it's from Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn. It's the song "Louisiana Woman, Mississippi Man," and I'm not a fan of this song. But my mother absolutely loved it, and it's one of those deals to where I hear it and I think about her, and it puts a smile on my face because anytime she would hear this song, she would just get goofy, start her what she called dancing, which most people would probably call seizures. I don't know. My sister inherited her dancing skills, let's put it that way, and that's not saying much. But just she loved this group, and I've spoken about it before too. The first album I ever received was a gift from her, and that was one of those gas station greatest hits collections of Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn that did not have this song on there. But it makes me think of her, and it puts a smile on my face. And I will say this, for fans of Conway Twitty or Loretta Lynn that hear this, just because I am not a fan of theirs does not mean I don't acknowledge their place in history. I mean, those two are legends, and very much deserve their place in country music history and music history in general. But I had to put it on, because of my mother. But all right, that's it. What an emotional show here. What an emotional past few days. Just life goes on. Life is a weird thing, when you are shown evidence of your own mortality by the passing of someone. It makes you ponder what you have in life that is good. And the past couple of years have really been tumultuous for me in a lot of ways, and I'm not going to get into here because I'm sure you'd all be bored by that. But I really appreciate being here, being able to still produce something, because as long as you are taking a breath, you have a chance to do something good in the world. You have a chance to right mistakes that you've made. You have a chance to be a positive influence on somebody. You have a chance bringing a smile to somebody's face. I think back to the Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood movie, and there's a reason why I have the Mr. Rogers bit at the end of each episode. And I will make clear too that if the show ever becomes famous, I know the first thing I will get is a cease and desist letter from the Fred Rogers estate stating I shouldn't have that song on, blah blah blah. I'm in a position where I want to ask forgiveness and not permission. But the reason I put the closing song to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood on as a tag on the end of every episode now is because, especially days where I am sad and think about my own mortality because of somebody passing, I want to be reminded that because I am still here, because I am still taking a breath, I still get it. I should enjoy every single day for what it is, and that's a beautiful day to be able to do something good. And yeah, so I encourage anybody that may be listening to this that were saddened by the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman, go outside, enjoy the sun. If with coronavirus going on, there aren't many places to go, but if there is a beach that is open near you and you have a chance to go to the beach, go to the beach. If you have a park that is near you, go to the park. If you're near the forest, go to the forest, walk around in nature. If you got a pet, a dog or a cat, play with them today. Have some fun, enjoy. If you got kids, spend some time with your kids. If you got a good book that you're reading from an author you like and it's making you feel good reading that book, grab that book, read it. Just do something to enjoy the fact that you're still here, chugging along and trying to make this thing we call life as good as it can possibly be. Life sucks right now for a lot of folks. Coronavirus is affecting a lot of folks in terms of their long-term physical health. It's killing a lot of folks. We got a person in the White House who absolutely does not care. We've got a portion of this country that does not care. We've got rampant racism. In Portland here, we're dealing with a mayor who just simply doesn't get that his inaction and actions in certain ways are not helping situations whatsoever. But there is a lot in this life that we should be thankful for, we should be grateful for. And, one thing I'm grateful for is seeing people fight, seeing people enjoy that day. And also, when I say fight, I mean that in the sense of fighting, because being in Portland, Oregon, with seeing the nightly protests that are going down in this town, that brings joy to me in a way, because those are people that are fighting to try to make this city and this country and this world a better place, because everybody should get a fair shot. Jacob Blake, I think is his name, the gentleman who was brutally shot by the cops for, the sin of being black, in Kenosha, Wisconsin. There's a lot of just bad stuff going on, and fight. This world is what we make of it, and if we don't fight to make it a good place, it's not going to be a good place. We keep fighting. We keep fighting, even though we may not necessarily see the end results of the change that we are fighting for. We keep fighting, because we're not fighting for ourselves necessarily. We're fighting for our future. I'm fighting for my kids. I'm fighting for my grandkids, my great-grandkids. And you just keep doing that. You keep doing that. You put one step forward. You keep fighting. Chadwick would have wanted that, because he could have easily, once he was diagnosed, just, said, hey, I need to take a break from acting to take care of my health. Everybody would have understood, and, but he realized that he had work to do, and that work was doing the films that he did. And, each of his films, understanding what he was going through the past 4 years and looking at the film choices that he made, he was very deliberate about the film, about those choices. And we need to fight. We need to fight, and we need to fight for the happiness, for the peace, for the justice that everybody deserves. So keep fighting. And remember,
it's such a good feeling to know you're alive. It's such a happy feeling. You're growing inside, and when you wake up, ready to say, I think I'll make a snappy new day. It's such a good feeling, a very good feeling. The feeling that I'll be back when the day is new, and I'll have more ideas for you, and you'll have things you'll want to talk about. I will too. You always make each day such a special day. You know how. by just your being you. Only one person in the whole world like you. That's you yourself. I'll be back next time. Bye-bye.
Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy on iTunes, the Google Play Music Store, as well as Spotify. Remember to support Friends Talking Nerdy on Patreon. Goodbye, darling.